Yes, thank you very much, Emily, and good morning, good day to all of you. It's very nice to meet you here. I think I have seen some of you in previous meetings, so it's great. In any case, I have heard a lot about your work, so therefore I'm very pleased to be able to be with you today. So my name is Sofia Monsalve. I work at FIAN International. I'm serving currently as Secretary General. I'm originally from Colombia, but I've been living abroad for many years, not only in Germany, but mainly in Germany. Actually, my field of work in FIAN, when I used to be a young, enthusiastic person like Emily, was actually, I'm coming rather from agrarian struggles, from agrarian reform, land conflicts, and all of that. So this is actually where probably my heart is. But now I have learned many other fields, more like the stuff that you do related to food banks, issues of looking at food and health from a different perspective than the food production and agrarian side of things. So thank you very much for inviting me.
Yeah, so I guess we can kind of like transition to Sofia's input today. So the idea today, we thought also a nice way to start after the summer and sort of re-energize or I don't know the word I'm looking for, was that we spend a lot of time talking about the global impact of a lot of the issues we discuss in the GSA, but we were thinking a little bit that we've never had a moment to sort of have this, I don't know, basis or sort of a discussion and sharing and just like simplifying some of these the current context of, I don't know, global food governance or what's really happening in different spaces, because we know that like not everybody is working in those spaces or as familiar with the different issues going on, so that it's a good moment now to sort of, yeah, I guess put it all out there and create a space for asking questions and sharing. And also put it in context of the work that the GSA or the different organizations involved in the GSA are doing. So we thought to ask Sofia, who's been really engaged, especially around the UN Food Systems Summit, in the global food governance debate, especially like the shifting way that food systems discourse has been happening, and as well as been following really closely all of the work and global debates and discussions around the global food crisis, which are very interlinked, and where a lot of the work and critical viewpoint that the GSA has an enormous value. So it can help us also start to think strategically about what it means for the GSA as a global alliance. What does it mean to act globally or to engage internationally, and what is strategic for us and where we need to fill gaps and how we need to organize to do that part of our mission. So with that, I'll just hand it over to Sofia. So she'll give an input and then we can take some time to ask questions or, you know, share your thoughts, or just, it can be kind of a free space to just start to openly think about some of these ideas. So Sofia, over to you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much, Emily. Yes, well, my input is basically more than an input, is I would like to share with you from the perspective of the food sovereignty and right to food movement, which has been organizing globally against the corporate capture of food systems. And now as well, in order to respond and address the hunger crisis, which is a multiple crisis, right? It's not that our communities are just facing hunger, right? It's the climate disruption, and it is war, and it is the economic crisis, so all at the same time, and each plays different combinations of crisis, so to say. So it is more let's say, to sharing with you how we are looking at the issues that you have been already working for a long time, actually, and how GSA and your work has become quite important for us, for this larger movement now. So I want to explain you why it is so. And perhaps let me start by sharing with you the civil society and indigenous peoples mechanism for the UN Committee on World Food Security, which is probably the largest platform that we have worldwide at the moment, gathering all the different actors and constituencies worried about food and nutrition. So this group, which was the one leading also the efforts against the Food Systems Summit and the corporate capture of our food systems, conducted regional consultations in the month of July about the hunger crisis, the current food crisis. Well, we participated in several of those. I myself was personally involved in the one for Latin America. And one of the key messages of all the people which gather in these consultations, one of the key, let's say, problems that they reported about in terms of the wrong solutions to the current crisis, the current hunger crisis, was their concern with the corporate donations of food. How they have become so prominent in countries like Brazil, Argentina, Colombia, Ecuador. And their concern was, of course, many of these groups have been engaging with issues of health, right? The whole problem about malnutrition, the pandemic, about obesity, you know, all the diseases related to junk food, and efforts about really reshaping policies for healthy and sustainable diets. So these groups were mainly the most concerned about this issue, because what they saw during the pandemic was that many of these corporations started distributing food, you know, but it is all this ultra processed junk food stuff, right? And now, during, let's say, this new phase of food crisis, we see how in different countries, policies and laws have changed in order to really give big way to these corporate, you know, supported food banks, if you want. So this was a clear message, and especially from that region. And then we saw, well, in our international advocacy work, there is the UN Secretary General created a so-called global response group to the crisis. So they were very much aware of the multidimensional structure of the crisis. So they thought that a response need to tackle at least food, energy, and finances, because these three crises are really intertwined and interdependent. And the Secretary General created this global response group. Now, this is a little bit, let's say, the follow-up kind of structure of the Food Systems Summit. The hunger crisis overshadowed a little bit the summit. It is also very interesting to note that the summit did not discuss about hunger. This was the quarrel of the special rapporteur on the right to food all the time, to say, but COVID, what about COVID? The food crisis created by COVID. Why is it that the Food Systems Summit is not tackling this? At that moment, for us, it has been really very tough to see that at the international level, the COVID-related food crisis was denied all the time. So at this point in time, the main concern was the transformation of food systems, because of course, agribusiness and corporations know that they have a problem, that it is really too evident that fossil fuel-based agri-food systems are very problematic, that society is demanding a change, and that they need to change things. So the quarrel of the summit was about the direction of change, the definition of what is sustainable. But hunger did not appear in that context. So now it was unavoidable to talk about hunger, and the Secretary General came up with a new thing, which it's not exactly the same as the summit, but of course it has this multi-stakeholder setting, you know, where many different business groups are there. Since the Secretary General cannot make any decisions, well, we decided as the CSIPM, this broad civil society platform that I referred at the beginning, we decided to participate in this group, knowing that the setting is very problematic, but our mission this time was to defend that the CFS is the place to really discuss a policy response to this new layer of food crisis. I'm telling you this story because we spotted a new business actor in this global response group, crisis response group. And this new actor is actually the Alliance of Corporate Food Banking, right? Emily, you know better the acronyms, perhaps.
The Global Food Banking Network, I think.
Correct, the Global Food Banking Network. So they are there. They have been also appearing and doing events together with FIO. And when looking at the website, I was shocked to see that BlackRock is one of the main funders of that network. I know BlackRock very well from our work on land grabbing and financialization of food systems and how BlackRock controls all the major agribusiness companies, right? And then to see them so prominently there, I was really shocked to see that. And I looked a little bit more in depth into the Colombia case, and I was shocked to see how systematically they have been working in making space for them in Colombia. And now I have to tell you, of course, we have this good news that for the first time in history in Colombia, we finally got a leftist government, and it is really great. And of course, the fight against hunger is one of the priorities. But we are a little bit overwhelmed to see how much inroads these people already have, even in a leftist government. Because, of course, this Colombian government has the challenge to, well, it's a very complicated scenario, and you have a very powerful right-wing, you know, forces and country. There are many, many agendas and issues. So the government has been trying to somehow not scare too much the private sector. And when it comes, they are very tough on the transition out of fossil fuel energy. So doing really, I mean, it's going to be a bold policy, the one related to energy. But when it comes to food, it has been less bold. And particularly on the issue of emergency program for food in Colombia, there is the danger that these corporate food banks will be there, just to be very explicit with you. So, yeah, so this is the challenges that we are facing. I guess I'm not telling you anything new, and you know that all very well. But now we are really confronted with this massive expansion of that model worldwide, not anymore just the industrialized countries. Already Latin America, Brazil, Argentina, and probably Colombia are very much really making really progress. This agenda is making progress. And I also want to transmit you the call from the groups in these countries are really interested in exchanging with you, because you have really a long experience and you know how tricky it is for civil society organizing to challenge these charity models, and you know that many well-intended people in civil society quickly jump on these initiatives. And believe me, well, again, you know that probably not probably, for sure, much better than me, but I was also shocked to see in the website of the Global Food Network Alliance, well, you know what I mean. They were portraying themselves as if they were community organizers, right? So how to organize a food bank, and this is a movement, and you know, and I think this is really the same attempt as with the Food System Summit to co-opt our language, our ways of doing things, and I'm talking about grassroots social organizing. So it is really, I haven't seen that explicit, and I was really very shocked to see how dangerous this can be, well, for our. So thank you very much.
Well,
Thanks. Thanks, Sophia. I've also been throwing some links on some of the things you shared in the chat, which we can put in the notes as well, but in case people want to have a reference. So yeah, I guess, does anybody want to like share or ask questions or express anything? Yeah, Karen, go ahead.
So Sophia, you know what you just said. So of course, I you know, I've been fighting against this charity model of food banking, you know, grassroots, you know, for the last 10 years. And what you just said about the Global Food Banking Network co-opting our language just, you know, hit me. Because 10 years ago, when I talked about, you know, healthy, nutritious food, about community, not charity, you know, all of the things that we were talking about to get out of food banking, I was painted as this horrible person. People, you know, set up Facebook page about me and terrible things. And now, if you were to look at the Ottawa Food Bank's website and the messaging they're putting out, as the City of Ottawa has a community safety and well-being plan, and all of their language is exactly our language. As a distribution hub of corporate waste, they have just hired 2 community developers to develop what? I have absolutely no idea. But it is exactly, you've just hit the nail on the head. It's exactly what is happening. If you look at Food Banks Canada, which was part of creating the Global Food Banking Network, it's exactly what they're doing. Even though in the last year, they literally created their own line of food, food for good, for people who are poor, who go to food banks. So yeah, you got it. I don't know how to fight against this, although we are doing it every day. But funders consistently tell me how negative I am and how I need to play along with the Ottawa Food Bank and Food Banks Canada. And Food Banks Canada continually tells funders, oh, you're with that Karen Secord. She is like a rebel. So I don't know how to get around that. They just keep making us these bad people, right? While they co-opt our language, and yeah, it's incredibly difficult. So thank you for saying that. I feel like I'm with my people.
You are.
Please,
So
all of you come here. Can you come here and help me?
So yeah, I'm not sure it was first Saira or Andy, but maybe like that if it's Saira. Okay, go ahead.
I thought Andy was first. Yeah, this is very helpful. I didn't know that was happening. And yeah, Karen, thank you for sharing your story. I'm so sorry what's been done to you. But this co-option of movements and activism has been happening for a long time. It's their playbook. I can remember 18 years ago meeting with Vandana Shiva and talking about how the fair trade movement, which I was part of, was being co-opted, and we had like Tony Blair talking about free and fair trade, and it was not fair trade, it was free trade. It was they had gotten the critique about free trade, and we were proposing what fair trade looked like, and so they began just taking the language and calling it fair trade when it clearly wasn't. So I just remember talking to Vandana, like just so upset, like what do we do? Like this is so upsetting, like they're co-opting our language, and I didn't like her answer, but her answer was, that the way to fight it is to keep using our language and define it and be like, this is what it looks like, so that they might use the same word, but clearly it's not the same definition. So she felt like we had to stay in our truth and like continue to just keep educating and defining people what fair trade is in that situation. And, I think in this situation, like what the charity models are and like what's happening in the food banking system. But the need to co-opt and to take is because movements can be successful, activists have credibility, and so that's why they want to co-opt it and say that they're a movement and that they're activists when they're not. And so it's sad, but I'm reflecting on like that was 18 years ago we were talking about this same problem, same playbook that they use.
Right, Andy, go ahead.
Yeah, so I'm wondering if there are folks in Colombia, Argentina, or Brazil who are working kind of to counter that narrative and what can be done to support them. And I keep thinking about, can you send a delegation of a few folks there to, folks like Robert, who's from Peru and speaks perfect Spanish, and others from the UK, from FIAN, to start talk with folks about, to share strategies and share stories and just provide some ammunition for them to to organize and counter what's going on.
Great idea. Yeah, and I think like maybe when we kind of finish this portion, or I guess it will like kind of go into that, we also have some like concrete proposals on like how to start thinking of organizing a little bit around this, but maybe I can put a pin in that for a second. But I also like that. I think that's a really cool idea, Andy. So I don't know if anybody else wants to share, or it seems, or if we moved into the point of thinking of concrete, or if anybody had questions even. Yeah, Allison, go ahead, and then Graham.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that Karen, your stories like yours and your experiences, those same stories exist, I know firsthand, from folks throughout the US that are working in food banking. I would say Robert Ojeda, who's with us, is one of those folks as well. And that having the courage and the support, which hopefully you feel somewhat here, but we should probably make that more tangible. But having that support to courageously tell those stories and say, look, I'm here to end hunger, and unless we do these things and look at the issues in this intersectional way, and that hunger is a symptom of multiple crises, as Sofia said, that are emerging, and stay in it, that's I think a critical piece of our, to use a horrible word, arsenal. And so thank you for your comments and for sharing that story. And I hope that in addition to, we set the Global Solidarity Alliance up with the idea that we wanted to really build allyship with each other in the, in sort of the wealthy countries, as a way to be able to show up authentically, as Andy's suggesting, and support and build allyship with folks in less wealthy countries that are dealing with some of these same issues. And so I don't know, I just wanted to recognize, I think this is an important moment where we're expressing both aspects of the work that we were hoping to do together.
Yes, Graham here. Apologies for being a little bit late, but I think what Sofia was talking about sort of resonates with me. I would say for 40 years, maybe Jan can go back longer, but just thinking about it, I think, and I'm seeing it playing out in British Columbia at the moment, is that I think our problem all along has been we have had no political champion. There has been no political party on the left that has actually taken up this issue and tried to deal with it. I think we failed. And I'm sort of feel sort of almost sort of full of despair, because I look at our provincial government, which has significant powers in relationship to these issues. It's a social democratic, purportedly a social democratic government, a Labour left government, and yet it's fully embraced the food charity model, and it's funding it all across the province, despite the fact that about 3 years ago, an expert panel was set up on basic income, which they appointed. And the basic income panel came back and said, no, we can't go down the basic income track for a whole variety of different reasons, which I think you see there in the literature. But we should continue with really a kind of an incremental approach to social security and building hunger relief. Although they didn't mention hunger, they didn't mention food insecurity. And they came up with 65 recommendations to be developed over the years to come. Well, you can see where all that will go. But one of the other things that this basic income panel said was that we shouldn't go down the alternative food charity model. We shouldn't take that path, because that was actually the mistake that was made 40 years ago. Well, this provincial government has actually adopted that policy. And so now we see it all these issues being farmed out to the community and being outsourced, not just in terms of food banking, but it's a critical problem. And yet we have our national research, Valerie Tarasak, and really pointing out, the fact that in BC we have, 14% of the population are food insecure in various ways, and we're still trying to deal with it through this charitable model. So I think I just feel full of despair, but I think there's a crucial factor here. We have not got one political party in Canada has actually taken this on. And I think what Karen was saying was, if you look at our federal Liberals, they're actually funding these approaches. They're funding the corporate approach and the food banking approach. And it's the same with our social democratic governments. We may see the Conservatives coming to power here in the next federal election, and they will do exactly the same. So I don't know where we go, but I think unless or until we can get a political party on side, which has got some teeth and some courage to act, I can't see an answer to this problem in taking on the corporate agenda.
Thanks, Graham. I don't know if someone else wants to share or just to add in anything here. Or else, I guess we're reaching kind of like the time anyway, where maybe I would suggest we can actually just transition into some of the concrete proposals and how to start thinking of organizing this. Or Sophia, yeah, you want to go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Emily, and thank you very much for all your comments and thoughts. I just wanted to come back to what let me see, Syra said in terms of, this is the playbook. They co-opt our language in different forms, and that's for sure the case. Now, what I see here is more than just co-opting language, right? It is more perhaps this. I don't know to what extent we have discussed already about that a lot in the US. We certainly haven't. I haven't seen these discussions, let's say in Brazil or here in Germany. It is about how the right-wing authoritarian forces have been mobilizing people, really truly organizing and mobilizing in certain ways, with a repertoire which used to be more from the left, but they have fully embraced it, right? And I see this thing as part of that, as part of naturalizing that corporations are essential for feeding people, and you shouldn't put that into question. Just the idea that we could be fed by ourselves or by peasants and a decentralized economy, no, forget about that. And they organize forces, but so this is more just than co-opting language. This is more than doing neoliberal trade and calling it fair trade. This is really going into the tissue, the social fabric of societies, and is not, of course, is strengthening a direction in a very clear way. So therefore, I would see that difference, and food, because it is so crucial, so essential, right? I think it is particularly problematic. I think, but perhaps I'm too naive and optimistic, and I think that this is just coming, and it is much more well advanced than I thought. Thank you.
Thanks, Sophia. And actually, I think maybe in our part of our transition, I think one of the benefits of this group is that, like, this enormous experience from the people here of when this model goes too far and fully embeds itself in a society, what that means for social welfare programs, for public support, and all of these things, I think is a really good, like, cautionary tale to countries which are just starting to experience these things, and it can really support, those experiences can really support an advocacy strategy before things become too embedded. And as much as, like,
What
the word,
strategy?
what's that? An advocacy strategy.
Okay, thanks.
Sorry. And I think that all of that work that is very, like, makes, for me, my brain explode in, like, a very that Harvard and the Walmart Foundation did on food policy, this legal study. But in fact, what they did was they gave us all the laws that now we can go, look, people, these are the things that are going to be targeted. So, like, you need to be ready to fight this from a human rights perspective, because it's not, I don't think it was on the radar before. So maybe they did us a service. So we're also trying to look at it like this. So maybe, I don't know if we want to keep recording now, or Josh, you wanted to say something real quick?
Just have one more question for Sophia on your perspective on transnational organizing around this. And kind of, I'm still unclear, how do we get someone like Karen in front of a FAO or UN body? How do we organize effectively in the places that have experienced 40 years of the rollout of food banking networks to enter these spaces and give testimony, kind of a counter narrative, and what should we be doing in our communities as we organize to, I don't know, I guess, explain that other people around the world are relying on your kind of negative experience of relying on food charity, like, don't let it happen there. I don't know if I'm making myself clear, but I'm still not fully familiar with how the FAO and these UN bodies are so critical at shaping these things.
Yeah, thank you, Josh, for the question. Well, I think that the most fundamental part is rather what Andy and others have said about really, I think, connecting now Karen and well, the group here, Robert and others, to the people now confronting these issues in countries, in Latin American countries, right? So this is one part of it. And I think the other part is to continue our efforts that the larger food sovereignty movement starts also bothering about this particular issue, right? Because that has not necessarily been the case. And I think in our, let's say, food issues ecosystem, yeah, it's probably the food sovereignty movement, at least globally and transnationally, is recognized to be probably the most powerful force. So I think it would be an important connection to make So to strengthen, it's already made. I mean, in your territories and communities, several of you said that you are working also on agroecological production, on small scale farmers and so on and so forth, but also globally is what I'm saying. So this is the important connection to make. Now, when it comes to more the advocacy matters, I think we could try to see, to try to track an opportunity to challenge these guys. So far, in most of the meetings, they have been very quiet. I can't recall that they have said much in the meetings of this global food crisis response group, global crisis response group. Emily, you traced one of the meetings together with Maximo Torero, the guy from FIO. So what we could do is to, well, it could be a joint initiative of this group to try to dig into what is FIO doing actually with these people. We have started to dig into the corporate capture of FIO from the perspective of crop life. You probably heard about this partnership of FIO with the pesticides and synthetic fertilizers industry, which is of course extremely problematic. But it is not a single case. It's a deliberate policy of FIO to deepen links and connections with the corporate sector. So we could try to track, okay, what is FIO doing with these guys, or with WFP, or I don't know, someone else in the UN, and then we could, as we have been doing with the agrotoxics industry, we could try to expose them and challenge them, and then we can, for instance, bring Karen or someone else to challenge them. But so far they have not been in these meetings in the open. They are not acting. It's behind the scenes probably. But if we stay together, if we stay tuned, so to say, we could quickly inform you if an opportunity arises. And then we do it. But my priority would be, in any case, to strengthen the links and the connections with the larger food sovereignty, right to food, health movements. I think this is probably the most important part of the